Our next speaker, Mr. Cenk Ersoy, Senior Technical Specialist and Technical Sales Lead for the Middle East area and Africa from Microsoft. Speaking on today's topic is digital enablement through Microsoft Azure Stack. Over to you, Cenk.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for providing me with this opportunity. As mentioned, I'll be talking to you about Microsoft's hardware-based appliance solution that brings you the hybrid cloud, hybrid Azure cloud. And at the core of my presentation is what we mean by hybrid and the hybrid approach. As you may know, Microsoft provides premium cloud services, public cloud services, and those are driven by data centers in key locations around the world. In cases where the Microsoft data center, Azure data center, is not available in the region or at a distance, we will have hybrid solutions that bring you some of the key Azure services to your country, even to your data center, through our hybrid model. And the reason we see this in reality is that there are a couple of reasons behind this. Primarily, latency is one of them. When the Microsoft data center is at a distance, let's say Western Europe or some other country nearby, there's nothing much you can do about latency because the speed of light is fixed. And the second reason is that we see a drive towards hybrid is the sensitive data that needs to be kept in country. So these are about the government's regulations, or it could be industry-driven regulations like in finance and healthcare, where the customers prefer to keep their applications and data on premises in the country, while also enjoying some of the key services of Azure, public services. So we'll address all of this. And at the top level, Microsoft's approach to cloud, hybrid cloud, is we'd like to give our customers capability so that they can use their existing tools, existing skills, existing knowledge of how they work in the cloud. And we'd like to have those skills and those tooling and those approaches apply to on-premises as well. So this is at the core of our hybrid model. We'd like to have our customers, for example, create a virtual machine in Azure easily, divided into subnets, establish firewalls in between subnets, and put in load balancers and so on and so forth. And the way you do that in Azure, you should be able to apply it to your on-premises virtual networks as well. Similarly, we'd like to provide our customers the ability to use Azure Active Directory as a way of authenticating into their applications, or even leverage security systems and monitoring systems from the cloud, also apply those to on-premises investments. And Azure Stack is a family of solutions at the core of this on-premises and it's appliance-based. One of the Azure Stack family, the founding components of the Azure Stack family is Azure Stack Hub, and I'm going to focus on that solution today. And it is basically, in core capabilities, an extension of Azure. What makes Azure Stack Hub very different than any other solution that you'll find in the industry is that we have the capability to bring you Azure PaaS services and Azure Portal to on-premises, to the Azure Stack Hub solution. And ODP provides that in your location. And what we mean is that by using Azure Stack Hub services, you will have the same portal as Azure, same skills, same way of doing things step by step in Azure also applies to Azure Stack Hub. It has multi-tenancy, so multiple corporations use it and they never see each other's workloads or applications or anything for that matter, similar to Azure. PaaS services and IaaS services. By IaaS services, infrastructure as a service, I mean the ability for the customer to go into the portal and create their own virtual machines, virtual networks, virtual disks, and install their own applications and manage them as if it's their own hypervisor. In addition to that, we have the ability to provide some of the key PaaS services of Azure. These are shared services that the infrastructure and the service provider like ODP provides to you. So you don't have to carve up VMs and manage with the complexities of managing something, but you leverage what's provided to you. For example, for databases, you can use a database instance that's provided as a service. Instead of creating your own VM and installing a SQL server on it, you can just allocate some capacity from an existing database as a service platform on Azure Stack Hub. Similarly, some of the key PaaS services that Azure Stack Hub provides include Azure App Services, which is our service for web apps and API apps, Azure Functions, which is serverless computing feature, Azure Event Hubs, Azure Key Vault, which is our encryption service. And these services are identical to Azure. And at the core, we even give you the code compatibility. And this is very important. You can deploy applications that are built for Azure. You can deploy them also on Azure Stack Hub. By deployment, I mean leveraging the scripting capabilities called ARM templates. They are written in JSON format. And you can deploy an application, you can package and deploy an application either in Azure or Azure Stack Hub. It's going to work the same way because the APIs of Azure Stack Hub are identical to the APIs of Azure. Granted, I'm not talking about having all the capabilities of an Azure data center because Azure data center is immense in scale. It's like a small town, particularly the ones in Western Europe, but the same core services of authentication, infrastructure as a service, and the PaaS services that I've mentioned. And this goes on to the application development and application deployment methodologies as well. The way you deploy an application in Azure Stack Hub is also identical to the way you deploy an application in Azure using tools like Visual Studio or command line or APIs from any key languages. So moving on, so it's that consistency. In a short summary, Azure Stack Hub is an appliance-based solution. It's this completely autonomous cloud solution. It's a private cloud solution that also becomes hybrid cloud. It gets integrated with Azure. Application consistency and development experience we just talked about. And the key services of Azure being available on premises refer to Azure App Services and Functions and Event Hubs and Key Vault that I talked about. We also are working on IoT Hub and AKS. We already have an AKS service, Azure Container Service. We're talking about an improved version of it also coming up. And this is an appliance. At the end of the day, this is a purpose-built appliance that is built to the scale of the customer or the service provider, in this case, ODP, and it's delivered as a purpose-built appliance by one of these 5 vendors. And this is a summary of the services that I mentioned. So Event Hubs, Azure Functions, App Services, Key Vault, Storage Networking, IaaS. An AKS engine refers to Azure Kubernetes Service as an engine, which is a template. By the way, I should emphasize that you don't have to do everything manually. We have a large library of ready-to-deploy marketplace items, which are VM templates, which is in our marketplace. And you'll be able to carve up VMs for your use by just deploying that VM from the marketplace easily. Some of the PaaS services that are in deployment include cognitive services. Today, you can actually deploy Azure Cognitive Services in a container form, Kubernetes containers, Docker containers, down on Azure Stack Hub. And this is very effective to do. You can easily do that today by running them either as in a Kubernetes instance on AKS engine or in an IoT as an IoT service, as IoT Edge Runtime service on Azure Stack Hub. So your Azure Stack Hub becomes your edge compute location. And this is very handy when it comes to applications such as finance or healthcare. Those high GPU intensive applications that you saw in the NVIDIA presentation can be executed, particularly if you have a GPU-based Azure Stack Hub appliance. And some of the other services that are coming in line will be blockchain and Azure Stream Analytics. So there are Azure Stack Hub appliances for sale by the 5 vendors that I mentioned in the previous slide, and they highlight these different GPU cards from different vendors, and Azure Stack Hub becomes the number crunching platform to run applications for deep learning and AI and ML and graphics intensive applications on premises. There's a little article there, blog entry that I put in for you to follow. I referred to in the previous slide a ability to deploy VM templates from the marketplace, so you don't have to really find code, install, and find licenses and all that. All of these are packaged by the vendors, by the ISVs, independent software vendors. This slide shows some of them. The link shows all of them. There's about 120, 130 or so. They increase every day, and they include solutions from vendors like Barracuda and F5 and Arista Networks and Veritas and so on and so forth, and a lot of templates also for open source, from Redis to Cassandra to different open source databases and search engines and so on and so forth. I'm leaving here a little link that shows a short video of what kind of things that you can do with Azure Stack Hub. You can run it dedicated, and it does not need a continuous connection to Azure. You can establish it if you want to, particularly for authentication, but it can also run dedicated on its own, disconnected as well. This is an example of a disconnected solution where they have a point of sales application on a cruise ship. When the cruise ship is actually traveling, it does not have the sufficient bandwidth, or they actually on purpose, they don't have connection to Azure. Everything runs on-prem, and when the ship ports, it connects to Azure, and then all of the information that was gathered in terms of business transactions are sent to Azure for further reporting. Some of the customers that we have, about 400 customers around the world. Some of the key names that it's actually on this. We have Liquid Telecom in Africa, of course, ODP, Airbus in France, Chevron, and so on and so forth. So we continue to see this hybrid approach, and customers prefer to have some of their applications running on premises on Azure Stack Hub and still enjoy the capabilities of Azure as well. And these are all around the increasing or improving the capability to keep applications more secure under their own control, in their own country, in their own data center. Also, government regulations are a big part of this. And Azure Stack Hub, due to its native PaaS services and cloud native coding, it becomes a great platform to build modern applications or to migrate traditional applications to modern applications. By modern applications, I specifically mean applications that leverage new technologies like containerization, microservices type of architecture, leveraging what's out there available as PaaS services. Instead of having all the components and complexities, it just goes out and leverages a database service from somewhere. It leverages some sort of, let's say, search engine capability or log analytics from over there, or security service from Azure. You can all build those hybrid solutions easily on Azure Stack Hub and leverage the full power of Azure. There are 2 or 3 reference cases that I'm leaving with you today, particularly for healthcare. Molina Healthcare is in the US, and they have been using Azure Stack Hub, actually few nodes that they have. I'm leaving you the link for it, and if you go into the link, you will see that they are using it for production systems that are critical, and they're using this for, they're gradually migrating, I think a few hundred right now, key applications to remain on premises under their own control due to governance regarding information about patient records. Another one is based in, New Zealand, and Mercy Ascot is the customer, and they're using Umbrella, and they're using it for electronic medical records and patient administration applications. They're also branching into looking at applications that have to do with X-ray and image processing on-prem. The third solution that I'm leaving here is from Microsoft. This is a very interesting case, and the video is already available on YouTube, so I just want you to have it. This is about edge computing, and we have in a lab, we have this cooled refrigerator for medicine, and we have all of the information about the temperature and the operation of the appliance itself through IoT services coming to us. In addition, we have added a camera that runs a object detection algorithm to see depleted stock of certain medicines. And as the medicine depletes, AI algorithm kicks in and actually sends a message for ordering more particular type of medicines. And this is a combination of IoT, AI, edge computing, and the services, a few services in Azure. This is I'm leaving you with that short video to enjoy. And that is the content that I have in this short limited time today. And I thank you all for joining this session.
Thank you, Cenk, for your presentation. And when we have more questions from the attendees, we will forward it to you for you to reply to them directly.